Hey y'all, welcome to today's episode of What I Learned Today. So, today I'm going to talk about faith, what I've learned, and what I'm still continuing to learn. So, by definition, we think of faith as something hoped for but not seen, right? So, there's no physical evidence that says that something exists, but we have this hope in our heart and in our mind and in our body that something is going to come to pass. Now, the challenge comes with faith because we would like to see and or experience some physical, tangible reality that we're not just believing something that's make believe, right? That's just a figment of our imagination. So faith can be challenging. And so what I've realized is that for me, faith, I have to look back. Let me say it this way. For me to rely on faith and to continue to know that faith is a thing, I have to look back on past times in my life where faith was a thing, right? Where there was something that I just felt very connected to, that I felt like it was going to happen, although there was no evidence that there was no physical evidence, right? That it was going to actually take place. But there was this inner knowing. So that's kind of interesting too, because faith seems to be connected with an inner knowing. So this becomes important that we start to hone, develop, strengthen our skill of listening to that knowing on the inside. And some of you may be saying, well, what is that? What does that sound like? Right? What does it feel like? And this is why it's important to know yourself and to become self aware and know that this is a strength and a skill that you can develop over time. So I want you to think of a time in your life when you knew something was going to happen. Um, and I really want you to think of something positive. Sometimes it's easy to think of the what we perceive as the negative things, but I want you to think of something positive where let's say for instance with a lottery ticket, you bought one and you just knew you were going to win. Now it might only be $2, but that's still better than nothing. Or the time where you just like you took a test, and even though you knew you hadn't prepared really for it, or let's say it was a pop quiz, you didn't even know it was coming, but like you knew you did a great job, or that interview that you had where you knew you nailed it, right? You knew you were going to get that job. And so when it comes to faith, it's that knowing. You might not have heard back from the company for several months, or you might not. I'll give you even another example. One time I was eating a lot of avocados, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take one of these avocado seeds and I'm going to plant it and see what happens. Now, I'm not in an area that is known for avocado trees, be very clear. So this was going to be homegrown in the house type thing. And so, and I'm not a farmer. But anyway, I ate the avocado, I washed off the seed, and then I literally just found the biggest pot that I had in my house and I planted it and covered it with a whole bunch of dirt. Why I didn't do any research, I don't have that answer for you. But I planted it, and every so many days I would water it. And then when the weather changed, I would take it outside So it could be outside for the spring and the summer. And then when it got cold, I would bring it in the house. Now, mind you, I saw absolutely nothing. It is just this really big pot with just dirt. But I had faith that something was happening underneath. And so for 4 years, I said, I know my neighbors probably thought I was stone cold nuts. For 4 years, I would water this thing, take it outside, spring, summer, bring it back in the house, fall, winter. And sure enough, one day, up comes a little thing. Now, could it have been stuff that had flown in during the summer? I thought that, but there were no other weeds, and it was coming up from where I had planted it. So over time, it grew and it grew, and these beautiful leaves came out. Now, it never bared any fruit, but it did grow into a plant, and it took over 4 years. It was just something inside of me that knew, that believed, that trusted that there was something growing. And it was my responsibility to continue to nurture that and to protect it, right? And I protected it by bringing it in during the cold. I didn't leave it outside and be like, oh, I don't see anything. So, but I knew it had to come in during the fall and winter months and then go back out so it would get the rainwater, it would get the sunshine, and it would get everything. Side note, my husband, and this was before I met my husband, into when we met and started dating and so forth. It turned out I had planted the seed upside down. So the it actually grew down and then grew back up. That's a whole nother lesson and discussion in itself. But I knew that it would grow. I had faith, right? I had hope. And in the scripture, in the Christian, in the Bible, it talks about having faith as small as a mustard seed, right? It doesn't take a lot of faith, excuse me, hope. It doesn't take a lot of hope, right, to have faith, but it does take hope. So if you think about it like a math formula, right, it's hope plus the belief, the trust, the knowing that leads to this faith. So I would say it's hope plus knowing equals faith. Actually, I kind of like that. Um, so we got hope, right? Plus knowing equals faith. Or we can do it long form. Hope plus knowing equals faith. And we're talking about that inner knowing, right? And when we're talking about that inner knowing, we're talking about trust, all right? And you're talking about listening to that inner voice. We're talking about being self-aware. Right? We're also, and when we're talking about faith, we're also talking about patience, right? Because, like in the story of me planting that seed, it wasn't something that happened overnight. I mean, we're talking over 4 years that it took for there to be evidence, that physical evidence, because there was internal feeling evidence, and I trusted what I felt enough to continue this process time and time again, right? So there had to be patience, though, that something would come to pass until I was moved to know something different. Which reminds me of another lesson that one of my spiritual parents said to me one time, she said, continue to do what God told you to do until God tells you to do something different. All right. And so that aligns with faith as well. And again, trust and so forth. Um, because I am knowing that what I'm doing, I am supposed to be doing. All right. So now that's faith. And then there's also blind faith, which is even more of a challenge. And I'll talk about that in another one because I like to keep these kind of short. All right. I hope that was helpful. And I wish you continued success on your faith journey. And let me say this real quick, it is something, faith is something that gets applied many times in life. And that's why I was saying earlier, right? Identify that time where you had faith in something, faith that something would occur, and when it finally did, so that you can document experiences in your life. Some people call them testimonials, right? Experiences in your life where faith has happened for you and or somebody you know, because sometimes we have to stand on other people's faith until we can strengthen our own. All right, I know that's a word in itself. So I'll leave y'all with that, and I'll be back another day. All right, see you soon.